It's finally game week. KU, Missouri State. We preview it right after this. Let's go.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
It's a live edition of Booth Review presented by Emprise Bank. It is a game week, and I cannot wait to be talking this football game week with my guy, Brandon McAnderson. B-Mac, the background. I was telling you before, and the background you got going is absolutely beautiful.
Let's go. I got two of my favorite game balls posted back here. I've got KU K-State 2004, my first career start, our first win in 11 years against the Wildcats. So I always keep that one on display, keep it clean. The other one is a course over that school that we don't speak of, that we used to play, that has yellow jerseys. It was when we won in 2003 at home with Bill Whittemore leading the charge 35-14 over Brad Smith and company.
Man, you got all those memories down. You got everything going there. I'm really excited to be talking about a game. Obviously, it's game week here. We're 47 hours away from kickoff, if I'm doing my math right.
Come on.
We're right up against it, man. And KU plays an FCS opponent like they did last year, as they started. I want to just kind of start with this blanket statement. Last year was a lot of fun. B-Mac, you were early. You were early on this team last year. You knew some things looked a lot different in that program early. I went to the Tennessee Tech game last year. Took my kid to it. He had a great time. He was a 6-year-old at the time. But when I watched that team play Tennessee Tech, the thing that gave me hope and belief was how different KU looked and how dominant KU looked against a lesser opponent. Physically, they just looked like a different team, different levels of speed, size, physicality than what Tennessee Tech provided. And I believe Missouri State is a step up in opponent for Tennessee from what we saw in Tennessee Tech last year. I think the thing I'm most curious about is, do we see that same kind of ginormous gap that we saw last year that kind of shows you a little bit of like, this team looks physically different. You know, they dominate, they execute at a higher clip. Just that overarching question for me is something I'm looking for just off the top.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because this is not Tennessee Tech. This is
right.
A team that lost by a score to Oklahoma State. I think it was 21-16 2 years ago. Hung tough and had a lead heading into the fourth quarter against Arkansas. So this is a real football team. And they had a coaching change, but it was really just the head coach. It wasn't the whole staff. It wasn't wholesale changes. So a lot of the same things they did last year, they'll be doing again this year. So this is going to be a real challenge against a real team. I don't worry as much about their offense, and I wonder about when are we going to see this execution, because Missouri State from that Petrino line is going to execute on offense. So defensively, they've got to be locked in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. And it was a Bobby Petrino coach team the last couple of years, but you're right. There is a lot of staff that stuck around because Bobby Petrino went on to be an offensive coordinator. Right. He left the head coaching position to go be an offensive coordinator. Staff's intact, a lot of talent. The Chiefs, I believe, had one of Missouri State's receivers in camp from last year, Ty Scott. So, they've definitely lost some talent. There's going to be there's going to be some new names on the Missouri State side, but this game does feel a lot more just about Kansas, right? There's still some question marks that they're going to have to address schematically. Like, there'll probably be some changes. They're good news for KU, both sides of the ball. You're right. There is some continuity to what they have on tape from last year.
Absolutely. You're going to see, you talked about that dominant performance. They can still have a dominant performance, and I think it'll mean more against a team of the caliber of the Bears. So you're going to see what they got and where they are and what their focus is and what they're trying to accomplish. And they're going to have a big opportunity to start the season off with a bang.
And I think and I don't want to say I don't expect, I'm not going to predict a 66-3 shellacking or whatever it wound up being last year against Tennessee Tech. And I do think it is worth noting that this is a better opponent than what they played last year. It is. It is a better organized, more talented football team. but I still think that it is a game in which KU can flex their dominance. And like I think that's what is going to be so interesting to me, because if they can go out and if they can play at a high level and they can, dominate a team the way, we think that they can, I think that could be a signal that like Missouri State's not a joke. They are a good FCS program. If they are able to do that and do something pretty dominant against, a pretty decent FCS program, like maybe that's the little indicator that, okay, be ready for what you're about to see the rest of the year.
Absolutely, man. It's last year ended up being a party. It started a little bit later, but it ended up being a party nonetheless. And I think I'm looking for that same kind of thing, that hunger to prove yourself, because we've talked a lot about what they were able to accomplish and getting to a bowl game and how special that was. But in retrospect, they ended up with a losing record. They didn't close out the bowl game with the win. That should leave a bitter taste in their mouth. There's plenty of people saying they're one-hit wonders. That should put a bitter taste in their mouth. You look at some of these media polls, a lot of people have them finishing behind newcomers to the conference. So there's still a lot of motivation for this football team. And I think this week 1 is going to tell us a lot about where their heads are.
And that was one of the themes that you felt last time. It was, you felt culturally and motivation-wise, something looked different about Kansas football. That hunger was undeniable. The way that team flew around, the energy they had celebrating each other, celebrating big moments, the way they performed on special teams, the energy they had on special teams. You felt something different about last year's program. And that's what's so interesting to me, is just what this version looks of it. Because I don't think to your point, I don't think the hunger just went away for this group. I don't think, I know like we've talked about, it's the offense isn't stale. They're just the same names coming back, bigger, badder, faster, stronger, more motivated for different reasons. And some of it's just continuing to elevate the program. Like BMAC, you've been there, you've seen it. What do you feel like from a vibes perspective? We're going to get into some X's and O's and some details, but vibes. What do you feel like the motivation levels for this version of the Kansas Jayhawks is coming off of a big step forward for this program?
I think it should be, last season was fun, but we haven't done what we came to do. We're not competing for championships. We weren't a contender at the end of the season. We weren't healthy. We didn't finish strong. I bet there's a lot of things that they point to, outwardly as a fan base. We're thrilled. We got to root for our favorite team. They played late into December. They competed well on national TV on several occasions. Really, ended up losing 2 games at the buzzer on national TV, 2 of the biggest national TV games that they played in. So I think it's something to be proud of. But as a player, I'm taking the next step. I'm thinking about the NFL. I'm thinking about what's happening for me. And what I'll tell you about Kansas football and the NFL is, if you don't win, no one cares. The team that I played for won 12 games. We had 5 people drafted. We had 3 additional people sign free agent contracts. It wasn't because we were so much better than the year before. It's because we won 12 games. And you need that kind of qualifier for these NFL teams to take you seriously in a lot of cases. So if they want to be special and these guys want to continue their career beyond the booth, they're going to have to win some games. So I think I want to see that type of urgency with some older players. You go across the board, there is a ton of 3, 4, 5th-year players. I mean, pretty much everyone starting is technically draft eligible, and that's always a goal. NIL is cool, but that's always the goal. You want to put that you want that NFL shield on your jersey. You want your name on the back of one of those jerseys, and that starts with what you build in college.
And there's definitely some more talent, that has the chance to do that, to aspire to that too, I think, on this roster, especially as Lance Leipold continues to build what he wants to build. I want to mention, hey, look, KCSN has sponsored with Home Field Apparel. They have all kinds of great Kansas-specific apparel for you, sweatshirts, T-shirts, hoodies, you name it, and it is all slick. We are excited to be getting ours pretty quick here. Cannot wait to be wearing all that. Don't worry, we'll be showing it off. We'll be showing it off when we get it. So I know B-Max got an Orange Bowl shirt that fits him perfectly, guys. Obviously, might have played in that game. I don't know. But
oranges.
But yeah, we're excited to get that. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
You know, BMAC, I don't know how much Andy Kotelnicki is necessarily going to show this week. And I think about, you really didn't see them introduce too much triple option look stuff in their first game against Tennessee Tech. They kind of saved it for next week. And I don't know if there's just going to be some ginormous scheme change that we're going to see this team sneak up on somebody this year. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm curious, like, how much new stuff do you think we see them try to get into in this first week? Or do you think that they're just going to go try and execute what they're good at? Try to beat a team that they should beat? What do you think we'll see offensively? Do you think we'll get anything new?
I think you'll get a lot of what you saw last year. I think the beauty of what they have on film from their last game against Arkansas is they did everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was motions and reverses and
empty,
back out, empty, 14 personnel, goal line sets, 2-point conversions. So they have everything on film. So I don't imagine that they're going to be very conservative. They really don't have any reason to. Now, do I think they have a specific game plan for week 2, which we're not going to talk about? Yes, I do think that they're going to have some things that are specific to the game plan for week 2 that they're going to hold back. But I don't think it's going to be a case where the playbook is going to be condensed, especially like we mentioned before. These are Division III coaches. They don't need a reminder to respect opponents. Mm-hmm. That's part of their process in terms of evaluating talent and recruits. They're not going to look at Missouri State and see a lesser team. They're going to look at a team and see a very competitive team, and they're going to push these guys. So I don't think they want to send a message that we're going to play vanilla. We're going to try to get out of here healthy. They're going to try to come in and kick butt against a good opponent.
And I want to talk about something very specific too, because we're not looking ahead beyond Missouri State about this game. But we do know Illinois, big game for this program just in general, right? And that'll be a fun one to talk about. I can't wait for that. No, we'll have tape on both teams, BMAC. I can't wait. But there's something that I've talked about on last year's show, and it's something it's even more specific to college football than I think it is even the NFL. And it's the concept of time theft. Okay. These college coaches love to put a few things on tape that are going to force the opponent the next week to prepare for. Because if you can force, a team to worry about some kind of weird tackle over alignment or, X over receiver alignment, some kind of little trick, some little wrinkle. If you can throw a few things on tape to force the other team to spend precious time, which is very precious when it comes to a college student who has a limited amount of hours you are allowed to prepare with them for. If you can steal some time from your opponent with a few different looks, that is not a bad thing. And you do see teams try to do that. So I anticipate we can talk. I don't think the wrinkles are going to be the things that they're most excited about showing. I think there will be a few little trick plays, a few 2 QB looks, some other stuff that you're trying to steal time from Illinois so they have to worry about preparing in the limited practice time that they actually have.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I kind of think of it as junk formations. When we were under bench, we had a bunch of junk formations that we didn't do anything out of. The problem with Kotelnicki and staff is they do everything out of everything. I mean, if you watch them last year, there'd be, one of the sets that I liked was Sevion had that jet series that he had, where he had a 40-yard run at one point. They had play actions off of it, and that's a good example of what I mean by junk formation, because that's basically a 22 personnel for people at home, 2 backs, 2 tight ends, but it's a spread formation. So really, you want to get a base defense, spread them out, and show them a whole bunch of stuff. So that's a junk formation in theory, except Kotelnicki seems to have real plans for every one of those formations, and I think that what makes Kansas so difficult to prepare for. And you talk about just putting on film. I know when we did it, it was just putting on film. That ain't what Kansas really does. They put everything on film and they run stuff. So I think they've got a really good pulse about preparation, what they want to show, what the expectations are, and what the counters are. I was listening to a podcast this week with Mike Lombardi, and he talked about how the rules used to favor the defense. So the offense had to have a lot of complexity. And now you're seeing the football game change to where the rules favor the offense. So you're seeing the defense start to get more simple, and it has to, right? Because a good example is Arkansas. Arkansas on film leading up to that bowl game played man-free and two-man all the time with light box numbers. And I watched that on film and said, there's no way they can play like that. And guess what? They played just like that. They played like that the whole game. They didn't change anything. When Kansas was scoring, they didn't change. When Kansas wasn't scoring, they didn't change. And that's a good example of where defenses are now. Offenses is the rules favor offense, so defense is very simple. You want to line up in one coverage, you want to line up in one formation, and if you get to third down and long, then you throw your junk out. But sorry, junk out. Pause. That sounded
Yeah, you get it.
Anyway, you throw your junk defenses out and you try to get to the QB. So that's kind of what I'm seeing from college games. You're going to see base defense, one or two coverages, not a lot of sub packages, not a lot of movement, because all the things the Kotelnickis of the world are doing, all the things the Petrinos of the world are doing.
Especially early too, because higher more you're throwing at some your players, higher propensity to bust some stuff early. Like this is execution becomes key, and some simplicity can become key, especially like on the defensive side of the ball. You're not getting into too many like empty checks. You're going to keep it simple. Yeah, you might be a little bit more predictable, but if you can execute, you're better off. Especially considering Kansas as a quarterback. We'll talk about Kansas on the Kansas side. They have a quarterback capable of making these guys pay for a mistake. I'm really excited to watch Jalen Daniels. Like, I know there's been a little bit of mystery and discussion about his back injury and some of that stuff and some concerns, and he hasn't been able to make, there's been some, reports of some limitations to him in practice. But by all indications, he's going to be playing against Missouri State. And the last time we saw this guy on the field, I mean, unbelievable. Just an unbelievable performance against Arkansas. He's a guy that I think you said it last week. He's slowly becoming. He has a chance to become a household name in this sport. But man, around here, like I'm excited to get to watch Jalen Daniels play football again, and a healthy Jalen Daniels, hopefully.
That's the part that as an analyst, we can get overwhelmed by the techniques and the formations, and this player does this and that player does that. But ultimately, I have a lot of fun watching Kobe Bryant play football. I have a lot of fun watching Jalen Daniels play football. I have a lot of fun watching Highshaw, Pooney. I just like the team. I like the way they compete. I like their style of play. And it's just a good opportunity to see some guys go out there and make a name for themselves beyond here. You saw the top 100 the ESPN did, a series where they mentioned Devin Neal, Kobe Bryant, and Jalen Daniels. So they're getting some people's attention. And now it's time to make them right, because that's how analysts work. They don't want to be wrong. They want to be right. And I think they're right about those three.
Who's the player that you're most excited to watch on the offensive side of the ball?
Man, there's a lot of candidates. And I'm going to go, in a, I wouldn't say a strange place, but an interesting place. I think it's Lawrence Arnold.
Okay.
I think that last year he proved himself to be a very reliable person, right? So you had very reliable Luke Grimm, very reliable LJ, and then like your deep threat being Skinner. You had some other guys in there that did some nice things. But what I mean for him taking the next step is him bending the field towards him to where if you leave him one-on-one, you're in trouble. You don't want to be in the red zone one-on-one because they can throw a jump ball on you. You don't want to lose track of him and play action. What I think the next step for them is for him to be a guy where your number one guy has got to be on number two. Because what I like about that is Quentin Skinner's 6'5" and was clocked nearly 23 miles per hour. So he's naturally going to affect defenses because he's going to get a lot of too deep because they don't want him getting behind. And you know how this works in the NFL, being a Chiefs fan, is that you play a bunch of too deep because you're worried about Tyreek. But there's all these people that you got to match up with now. So my hope is that LJ has taken a big step in terms of sophistication of his route concepts. He already has great hands. He was pretty good after the catch. I'd like to see him take a step there. But if they get a go-to wide receiver that can do things in the intermediate, demand your best coverage guy, and really have to put some focus outside, that's a big time addition.
Yeah, commanding coverage is the idea of any specific receiver really commanding coverage for this team is terrifying.
Yes.
Because Andy Kotelnicki can expose that,
Yes.
and it is nice to have an X type guy on the backside of your formation where you can go 3-by-1, you can ISO him, you can put some strain there, you can create some. I mean, you can tag whatever you want. You can just you can figure it out over there based on what you're seeing, and there
Absolutely.
there's some value to that for sure. The guy I'm most excited to watch, I'm excited. Look, Jalen, obviously, I think the thing that's most interesting to me about not necessarily Missouri State, but the program and where this team can go for the rest of the season. I'm really fascinated in Dominic Pudney, the left tackle. That's the one that's the one that intrigues me the most as far as just, I like to think big picture. I like to watch big picture. I'm going to watch, Missouri State. And when Missouri State's done, I'm going to analyze it to see what I like and what I think. But then I'm trying to think, how does this team get to, where they want to go? Dominic Pudney at left tackle it's a big piece to their success. And I'm really excited about that offensive line because we've talked about it. Grown men on that offensive line. There's some big dudes. There's some experienced dudes. There's continuity and an outstanding offensive line coach. They had one starter they lost, essentially, and that was Earl Bostic, who's on the practice squad for the Dallas Cowboys right now. Yeah. Dominic Pudney has the left tackle background. He played along the interior, and he played great.
Yes, he did.
People were like, I think some people, like, when it kind of, Dominic Pudney was the guy that was kind of, he might start for this team. It was one of those, why? Well, it's because Dominic Pudney's a good football player.
Oh, he's very good.
He's a very good football player. And so him getting tested out along the left tackle spot, that's a big, how he looks out there is a big indicator for me on where this football team can go.
Absolutely. With him, you're getting heavy hands, tons of durability, a road grader run blocker when necessary. This is a guy that can help move the line of scrimmage, versatility, and that durability, right? He didn't miss. He was available pretty much for every snap. Mm-hmm. And he's a guy that always sticks out to me because I came into last year's camp and thought, let me check out and see, who's the best newcomer. Everybody said one name. Dom Pudney. They're like, this guy is incredible. I don't know how they figured out he was available. I don't know how they knew he was a good player, but he is here and he's getting 1 reps, within a month. That guy came at the beginning of July and was starting at the beginning of August. So that tells you what kind of talent and player that he is. And I love this offensive line group. You talked about it. I'm glad you did because I talked about LJ taking the next step. The next step for this group is just to push, be physical. It's one thing to be consistent, not give up sacks. What are you doing with that line of scrimmage? Who's going to be nasty? Because we got some big, strong guys on that interior. Armaje Reed Adams is one of my favorites. That's a big physical man. Pudney is a guy that can play guard at a near all Big 12 level. Now he's playing left tackle. So there's just a lot. And I want to see that run game go from, these guys are pretty good to, whoa.
Well, and BMAC, I don't know. I'm not trying to look ahead to Illinois, but Illinois has a dude up front.
Yes,
they have a good defense. Yes, so it's gonna be a good challenge. Yes, but yeah, I just want to see this group up to the task, in their first test. Anybody else on offense you want to highlight before we move on?
I mean, I'm an RB, so I got to give my RBs love. And I love every one of them. So this is, what we say this, I love every one of them. But obviously interested to see Highshaw get back to it.
Yep.
I've seen him in camp, and he looked super healthy. But obviously you still want to see him do it in the game. Devin Neal, I want to see what he's added to his game. He's still a young player in his 3rd year. Somehow he's a guy that's still 20 years old. So, yep. I mean, he's a guy I'm going to be interested to see what he's added to his game. Of course, Torrey Laughlin's going to be smashing people on special teams, catching the football. So I'm always excited to see my RBs and see what they can do.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, Daniel Highshaw, he was so much fun, and that was a nasty duo that they had that first half of the season before he got hurt in the Duke game. and he was, like we talked about, he's a big loss. That could be a scary group. That could be a real scary group. That could be an absolute problem for the Big 12 if Devin Neal, Daniel Highshaw stay healthy and can go and ball out. Yeah, I'm really excited about them. Yeah, you kind of talked about like Lawrence Arnold, receivers. I want to like, I know it's always the backups, right? But I know there's been good reports on Doug Emillion. Want to see like what he looks like, because he was a little bit of a late arrival, if I remember correctly, last year. So him getting an opportunity to be in this program for another year, what does it look like for him? That's one of the other guys I'm kind of looking forward to seeing and what kind of opportunities he gets. We're going to take a break. We'll be back to talk about the defense right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
B-Mac, most of the talk about this team and where they want to go, like, it feels like the offense is a known commodity. 91% returning production on the offensive side of the ball for this team, and there's plenty of defensive production returning and snaps and experience on this defensive side of the ball. But I think a lot of people point to the defense as the side of the ball that if they take a step and if they, continue to come into their own a little bit further, it's going to help this team go from a 6-win program to 7, 8, 9, who knows. This defense is, I think a lot of KU fans are looking to this side of the ball to see what they have, what's different about this version of the Kansas defense than last year.
Yeah, I think that the personnel is so similar. The thought is, who is going to be our savior? Well, that's the part about defense. There is no saviors. You improve on defense by sticking to the process, being committed to doing your job, over making highlight plays, over accumulating statistics. So what happens when you get an old group is they're out of time. They know they're out of time. So now they're not trying to make ESPN top 10. They're trying to be top 10 in money made at some point in their career. So that kind of changes how you view things, and that makes guys more consistent with doing their jobs. What the stat to me that's going to make the difference in the season and even in week 1 is, you heard Borland say that it was explosive runs. They were 6-0 when they gave up 4 or less 10-plus yard runs. They were 0-7 when they gave up more than 4. So to me, it is really about run defense. 2021, they came in here 6.1 yards a carry. They improved that by 1.3 yards last year, got it down to 4.8. If they make another 1.3 yard improvement on yards per carry, that'll put them in the 20s in the country. And here are the teams that had 3.5 yards per carry. Duke won 8 games. Illinois won 8 games. Texas won 8 games. Ohio State won 12 games. So that's what you're looking for. If these guys can win first and second down and make tackles and put these people in 3rd and 7+, then you're going to see Brian Borland get unique. You're going to see packages. You're going to see movement, all the fun stuff we associate with defense.
There's not a lot of Georgia talent on a defensive side of the ball. There's Georgia, and that's the list.
Yep.
And so in some capacity, you have to pick and choose. You have to play complementary football. You got to make choices. And I liked the intentionality that KU had about stopping the run last year. I thought that was a sound strategy structure. Like, hey, we're going to stop the run. We're going to play top down. We're going to try to limit explosives. We're going to tighten up in the red. We're going to get a little crazier in the red. And we're going to hope to win early down so we can pin our ears back and do some stuff on 3rd down. Like, I know that I think it's smart to be a run defense committed, structure, especially the way they kind of try to play on the back end. I like what they do there. A lot of the questions surrounding this team's ability to stop the run is going to come from, the conversations up front. A lot of new names on the defensive line. Some new names, or some names that were here that maybe weren't necessarily playing, were redshirting, were getting limited opportunities. What do you feel about the outlook of this front, which some people consider to be the weakest part of this defense, the weakest, and some will go as far to say the weakest part of this team? What do you feel about what you've seen from this defensive front to this date? And do you think that some people are going to surprise them up front?
I think that this is going to be a good group. I am going to tell you that the interior defensive linemen, the D tackles that are on the front line of this defense, Tommy Dunn Jr., and his cohort there from Colorado State, his name just slipped right out of
Devin
my
Phillips.
head. Devin Phillips. I think that is going to be a extremely physical, strong group. Both guys are 6'2", 310, both very athletic, both can run. And I know Kansas fans, cover your ears if you don't want to hear optimism. But if you look at Tommy Dunn and Phillips and what their potential will be in terms of body type and ceiling, I think this is the best defensive tackle tandem that potentially that we've had that I can remember. You know, we had James McClinton that played, who was just a dominant player, but his co-part was more of a rotating thing. I mean, two guys that when they're on the field, trouble awaits. And I see a physicality out of these two that is alluring. Tell me about Phillips, because I know he's a guy that is interesting for NFL names. What do they look at when they see him?
So I've heard you say a little bit more as like a penetrator. I actually feel he's more of a guy that is better kind of holding a point. Like I'm more impressed. The things I've seen from Devin Phillips is more impressed with him holding the point of attack in the run game. I don't know what he's going to present as an upfield, influence in the pass game. I haven't seen a ton of that to this point, but I've seen grown man strength. I've seen really good ability against the run, gap sound, gap integrity, knows what he is, knows when to try to slip, when he's trying to play, when to play sound and try to, base up and let somebody else make the play. Sound and smart is what I've seen out of Devin Phillips this week. And that honestly could be a huge asset for this team. Like that is something that is valuable. And I look at Tommy Dunn Jr., I see him a little bit more upfield from what I've seen. So like I feel like Phillips is if you're lining both those guys up, I'm lining Devin Phillips at the 1 tech. I'm playing Tommy Dunn at the 3. And I hope I'm wrong about Devin Phillips' upfield ability, but even if I'm not, having that kind of player is very valuable to this defense. And like especially if you are, we talked about the struggles of the front last year, some struggles of the linebackers position, thinness, it got thin, got tired, all that stuff. But the guy that I know a lot of people are really excited about Tommy Dunn, but like honestly, B-Mac, Devin Phillips is the one I'm most intrigued by because I think he could be one of the biggest change agents to that front 7.
Absolutely. Just his build alone is just, he looks like a guy that plays on Sunday, just very thick in that hammer area around the hips and the butt and can make power plays. And I said penetrator, I might have misspoke. I meant what you meant. Holding the point of attack, getting separation, and tackling ball carriers. I mean, he's more than just a block occupier. He's a guy that can still separate and make plays. So I think he'll still make plays in the run game. What I like about how they rotate and keep guys fresh is that last year it seemed a different guy made the biggest play of the game every game. Sometimes it was Eddie Wilson. So I'm interested to see if Caleb Taylor can step into that Eddie Wilson role, a guy that I have been very excited about over the years that has all the talent you could ever want, but hasn't quite consistently got there. Maybe he's in that role where he can come in and make plays and does those things. So it's a group that I am super excited about on the defensive line. And, that's just, you think about last year with Kansas, the weakness was wide receiver, right? Going in, everybody, wide receiver, I don't know. By week 3, they were so solid, you rarely ever heard about it. So I think I'm looking for the same kind of, hey, we knew we were struggling here. We've addressed this. We've got some dudes.
I like it on paper. I'm very curious to see how this team stops the run. I'm with you. Like, I think that's one thing I'm very fascinated by is just, are they able to out physical Missouri State? Are they able to establish their physicality, their strength, their grown manness differently on an opponent? And that was one of the things, like just looking against Tennessee Tech, that stood out so much to me last year is like, this looks different than what they have. On paper, this front looks bigger, stronger, more athletic than the front that they saw that KU had last year. Like a ton of respect for, some of those veteran interior guys. I love Sam Burton. Like that's a Jayhawk right there. But it's not about just, getting, being assignment sound anymore. It's like there's some guys that can make some plays. There's some guys that can get upfield. There's some athleticism on the edges. I'm really excited to see some of these new faces flying around, and I want to see just what they look like against a different opponent.
Absolutely. You're going to see some of that edge, some of that athleticism, moving back to that second level. JB Brown is a guy I'm super excited about. 6'2", 230, a traditional tackling machine, which is that's what you want at that linebacker, a veteran guy that can run and tackle and has a physical presence to him. I'm excited to see what Barry Hill's added to his game. He's a guy that's improving every year. And like I mentioned before, I'm always interested to see how they're going to deploy Craig Young. Where are they going to deploy Craig Young, in what ways, in what positions? I'm always just super excited to see him get after it. If you look at,
I was just kind of looking at like KU's front real quick, and this is something I'm going to go back to. We'll talk about their front seven because this is you got Devin Phillips is 315, Tommy Dunn's 310, Jeremy Robinson's 260, Hayden Hatcher, if he's the starter, you're looking at 245. That's a pretty grown man front. And then you look at the linebackers too. Rich Miller's 230 probably. Yeah, Rich Miller's 230. Baby Brown, if he 230. Like they've got a good size. They got the size, strength, physicality to hold up front. And it look at some of the I haven't seen this version of this team yet, but the bodies that you see on some of the clips and stuff. Like this is a grown man front, and that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing is a grown man front try to establish their dominance on a lesser opponent.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you look at the roster, they released the roster this week. They only have 3 true freshmen listed. One of them is a punter. So, this is an old grown man team. And interestingly enough, Calvin Clemens is one of those freshmen that are on the roster who's known for being a giant man.
So, he's like 315 on the roster, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he's 315.
What I'll tell you about Calvin Clemens is seeing him last year in the spring game. They had a walk-on the previous year that was number 75, and I thought, oh, there he goes again, same guy. And I actually looked at him, and I'm thinking, man, he got a lot taller. And then I actually get a little closer, and Clemens was standing next to Earl Bostic. He's noticeably taller than Earl Bostic. So he's listed as 6'7". He might be 6'8". He's a big, long man. I'm excited about what his career might bring. And I've been hearing some very good things about Kubeka in terms of his effort and ability. And he might be a guy that can fight his way on the field and get some reps, especially in the mix for special teams. So this is a developing team with some real dudes.
I'm excited. Anything else on defense you want to talk about? Any player you want to profile?
I am interested to see what the safety rotation looks like. I couldn't like O.J. Burrows any more than I already did. The Jayhawks Slant had an article today about Marvin Grant and how much he's improved. I liked him last year, and he was also a guy that came in late, so he'll have some more time in the system. Dye is an excellent player. This is a guy that's, more than his father's namesake. This guy can play football anytime you see him out there. Then you got old reliable Kenny Logan, a big-time playmaker. So I'm interested to see what the actual rotation looks like, being that you have a 2 deep of really, really quality players.
All right, B-Mac, I want you to give me one key to KU Missouri State for the Jayhawks. It can be either side of the ball. You pick whatever you think. One key to the game.
Offensive line moving the line of scrimmage. I want to see that. I think it's something that should happen. I think they'll have a physical advantage. I want to see that thing push 2 and 3 yards every play.
I think for me, it's just physicality from that front seven. And that's the thing I'm most looking forward to. And it's the thing I want to see. And it's one of the big differentiators between a Missouri State type team and a Kansas type team. Yep. And there's been a lot of talk about the defensive front. I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's all about, what it looks like, if it's different. And it's kind of seeing a different style of defensive tackle, to your point, because I do think it's a different style of player that they have primarily in the rotation in 2023. B-Mac, I want a score prediction. Can you give me a score prediction for this one?
I'm going to go 41-17. 41-17 Jayhawks.
Is it a late touchdown too?
No, I think they get some space, and then they kind of pull off the gas a little bit. I think they build some space, pull off the gas, and then kind of just close them out.
I was talking about Missouri State.
Whoa.
They get the late touchdown.
Oh, no question. They're going to have to get what they can get. I think this defense is going to be older. They're going to be prepared, and they're going to be ready to prove those naysayers wrong for sure.
No, for sure. I think 17 is about right. I'm gonna go 42. I'm gonna go 42-20-ish. I'm gonna go 42. And I'm calling like it'll be like a late touchdown for Mo State. It's like the last drive of the game is they're getting their last touchdown. I think KU's gonna put some points on the board. I think they're gonna finish some in the red zone. They're gonna execute. They're gonna score touchdowns, not field goals. Defense is gonna look good. Maybe some late touchdowns from like a touchdown or two late from Missouri State. I'm gonna go 42-20. I can't wait to watch this game. I can't wait to see the 2023 version of the Kansas Jayhawks. B-Mac, I know you're hyped. You have a great view on game day, my friend.
Man, I'm gonna be down there on the sideline. If you see me, come say hi, say what's up, say B-Mac, say Rock Chalk, whatever. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, this is gonna be great. I can't wait. I can't believe it's finally here. College football is back. Kansas football is very back. And this is going to be a fun season. Can't wait to see it unfold. We'll be here to react to Missouri State and preview Illinois next week on Booth Review. Thank you all for coming to the live episode. We'll catch you later.
Yes, sir.